Just talk about
I've got questions. You've got answers. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Frightmare in the Falls. Welcome to this panel with the ladies of Evil Dead. My name is Andrea Subasati, Rue Morgue Magazine. I'm a lady, but not of Evil Dead. We have with us Betsy Baker, who played Linda, and Theresa Tilly, who played Shelly. And yet, if we were to look at the credits of the Evil Dead,
Here we go.
who's Theresa Tilly?
You can't change your name. I mean, come on. No, you probably want to know why.
I want to know why.
And so does everyone else. It's a kind of a boring story, but I had just become a union member in Detroit, and very young, and didn't really know much about being in the union. And actually, right now, we're on strike. I don't know if people are aware of that. Yeah. And a lot of actors are out there holding up signs, and I want to pay tribute to them and solidarity. But I do have a sort of different angle on the union from my youth, and that was that I went to them to ask if I could do this movie. And they said, sure, have the directors and producers come and we'll talk to them. And I went to the Sam and Rob and Bruce and said, could you talk to the union? And they said, sure. So this went on, you know.
Sure, Teresa, we'll do it.
Yeah, no problem. We'll do it. But, you know, this was before computers and everything. You had to actually call someone and be there. So time to make the movie, and nobody had talked to anybody. And it was like, well, do you want to make it, or do you want to be in the union? Or so I was advised to just make it and change my name. And silly me, I thought, well, no one will ever know. Because honestly, the production of this movie, you wouldn't have thought that it would ever have been shown in the theater, and it wasn't for a long time. So I thought, oh, I got away with it. But no, they actually did find me and suspend me from the union, even though I wrote a different name, which was Sarah York. So it has some bittersweet memories every time I see Sarah York, because that really
you ended up becoming a princess of England.
Okay.
Right?
There you go.
Not so shabby.
Cup half full. She's making a joke, in case you didn't know.
Is that what inspired the name?
No, my niece was born, and her name was Sarah, and I wanted to move to New York.
Okay.
That's a really interesting...
I never knew that.
Yeah, well, so that's the story, and I'm sorry, I apologize to people that I sign it as Theresa Tilly when it says Sarah York, but if you want me to sign it Sarah York, I will, so...
I don't think anyone's complaining. And Betsy, you came to the film a little differently from what I understand. You answered an ad in a newspaper?
No.
Wikipedia lies.
Yeah.
Now
I actually I was living in Detroit and was doing a lot of auto shows. You know, auto shows where, like, once you look inside this lovely Buick, and then you open the door and show them the inside of the Buick. And we had an agent for those, and she called one day. She said, I have 3 young men that would like to meet with you for a film they're doing. And what that really meant was we've talked to 3 young men who don't want to pay a rental space at our agency, so could you meet them at a restaurant? And I went, well, who are these? She goes, I don't know, we just met one of them, and they want to meet you at like 4 o'clock at this restaurant. So at the time, I had no idea whether I was going to end up in a trunk, you know, truly. So I was dating a guy who was like 6'5", 6'6". I said, okay, we'll go together, you stay in the car. If I don't come out in a half an hour, you come in and look for me, right? So I went in, and here were these 3 young guys, because they were younger than I was in my early 20s. I think Sam was 19 or 20. And they were in the back of this restaurant between lunch and dinner. Remember when restaurants had this real, we're closed after 2 p.m. for lunch, and we'll reopen 5:30 for dinner. And they were in the back drinking Pepsi Colas and blowing paper out of their straws. So I sat down. I said, well, this is going to be sort of harmless. They're not going to hurt me. And then Sam said, would you like to come to my house on Saturday and read a few scenes with our, star Bruce here? Well, it wasn't his house. It was his parents' house. He was living at home still.
We went to the basement.
We went to the basement. You go and
Go to the basement if you want to do that.
You drive up the driveway and you knock on the back door, because we all, as kids, we just knocked on the back door. And Mrs. Raimi came to the door and said, "Oh, hi, you must be here for the audition. The boys are downstairs. Go on downstairs."
I'll be bringing some cookies
that's
and
the
milk.
honest truth. That's the honest truth.
It's true.
And so I went down and read a few scenes with Bruce, and Sam offered me the part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as charming as that sounds, you do always have to think about safety, and you always have to think about what am I getting into. And I feel like that's especially true of horror. When I started writing about horror movies, my dad used to say, "I always thought you'd be in horror movies." And as young as 19, I'd be like, "Well, I'd have to show my tits, Dad. Is that what you want?"
Hello.
And well, that's what scared me off of showbiz. Now, in Evil Dead, you guys had to do a lot of uncomfortable things. Did they tell you right off the bat that, this is what you're going to have to do?
Can I just say, taking a lead from showing your tits, I did not know I'd have to show my tits. It was not in the script until I was there for about 2 or 3 weeks. And somebody got a really bright idea. Maybe we should show some boobs. And hey,
That'll be a moneymaker.
Teresa, you just lift up your shirt when, you're taking your clothes off and, the monster's coming in the window. What? I never signed on for this. And, I could go into a lot of detail, but it took about a lot of moonshine before I could do that. And I was not happy about it, but, that happens a lot.
You'll notice they didn't ask me. They just said, "Don't ask Linda. She won't do it."
I figured they just ask anyone, and she says yes. Who had the moonshine? But what about the contacts and the prosthetics and all that? Did you have any idea what physicality you were in store for? What torture?
Oh my God, no. I don't think anyone could imagine the whole contact lens thing where you can't. It wasn't that it was that. It was kind of painful. I mean, they weren't real contacts. They were like teacups, we often say, and Tupperware, like Tupperware in your eye. But you can't see out of it, so you're jumping on people, not being knocked in the head, basically blindfolded. So we didn't have any stunt people. We just recently had a meeting, lunch with the gals from Evil Dead Rise, and they were complaining about their trailer and their stunt.
Yeah, they were complaining about their trailer and their masseuse that came on the set late at night, and their hot coffee wasn't quite hot enough. And I swear to you, and we love them all. We just
adore
finished
them.
it. We adore them. But Teresa and I are sitting there going,
trailer? So, what's a trailer? What's a stunt person?
Girls.
You didn't have to do your own stunts? Oh, no, we had
You're
3
talking to the
people.
OGs. Do not be crying to us about
me a
lukewarm
break.
coffee. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
Thank you for that applause over there, because they were like our kids. Like, what are you complaining about? Here's a bologna sandwich. Go to school. Bye. Oh, my gosh.
So Sam has done very well for himself.
Hasn't
Yes,
he,
he
though?
has.
So we can throw him under the bus a little.
Okay.
Love to.
Horror stories of him torturing his cast to get the best performance out of them. Do you have one? We won't tell him. We won't put it on your IMDb.
Well, I think I remember one with you in particular. I was there the night. Oh, no, actually, I have my own. She can tell hers.
Well, I will tell you, I think Sam, in all honesty, is a gifted filmmaker. Creative, he's genius. We get asked this questions, did you know of his genius or qualities in directing when he was young? But there was a spark. He was disciplined and he wanted this done, and he was very, very creative. But Sam also has a voice and a face that he can get away with anything. And it was, we just were with him 2 weekends ago, and the voice and the face is still there. And he'll just start talking in his regular voice. He goes, "Oh, come on, Teresa, you can do this. Let's do it again. We'll just put a little dirt on you, and then you can scream. That was great. Okay, let's do it a couple more times, shall we?" It's always "shall we." we.
Actually, the incident that I'm referring to was, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie, but I was cut up in pieces and buried under the cabin floor. Well, I was literally nailed under the floor with Bruce was my leg and Rob Tappert was my arm. And I had the contacts in, and it was like middle of the night. We'd been shooting and shooting, and no one ever said cut. And I'm like, what's going on? Because I can't see. Sam fell asleep at the camera with the DP, with Tim Philo. Yeah, so that's a good story.
Being the creative genius that he is. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I'm putting that on IMDb. He can take it.
No, we love Sam.
So you mentioned that the film wasn't in theaters for a while, but it did have a premiere in Detroit,
It
from
did.
what I understand. You guys were there?
I was.
Uh-huh.
I was not.
No?
Auto shows.
I was doing an auto show in Portland, and those Portland people wanted to know about the inside of the Buick, and I couldn't get away. But you were there.
I was there with my parents.
I was going to ask.
When the nude scene, well, not nude, whatever, I said, hey, Mom, look, it's Aunt Mary. And I told him it was a bodysuit. I just had my cousin ask me recently, was that really a bodysuit that you were wearing for that? I said, no, Mary Jo, it wasn't. Sorry, I lied.
But, I mean, I still want to ask this of both of you. When you eventually did see the film, how did it compare with your experience on set? Like, so much cinematic imagination, innovation happened in Sam, in post, with editing and stuff. Like, was it almost unrecognizable to the movie you thought you were making?
That's a really good question.
It
And I
is.
would say, yes, there were parts that were totally like, when did we do that? How did we do that? Or I had no recollection. You have to remember that when we all got the script, and I still have my script at home in this room. I mean, it's not like dedicated to
doesn't know
Evil
where,
Dead,
but-
it's, it was only about 49 pages long. And everything, a lot that you see in this movie is improv. Or why don't we just add this right here, Betsy? Okay, instead of you walking across the room, take this dagger and go practice with Bruce, and then we'll, there was so many additions. But there were a lot of scenes that I had no memory of doing or were cut. And then they would, with their magic, make it a longer scene. So, again, to Sam's credit, it was creatively done. But yeah, there were lots of things that you just had no memory of. And again, it was 2 or 3 years after we made it. A lot of movies are made in 2 or 3 or 4 months. We ran out of money. And so we'd have to stop production. And I distinctly remember being in Tennessee and having a couple of days off because Sam and Rob had called their parents back in the Detroit area, said, is there any possibility somebody can drive down with another $2,000 or something, or another roll of film? We didn't have it. So we would stop. So that was interesting.
Yeah. And what about you, Theresa? What about the infamous tree scene? Were you like, whoa?
Well, yeah, I mean, I talk about it that when we were all shooting that night, we often, the 3 girls, we kind of stuck together because it was sort of a boys' camp thing. Like, we were the only gals. And so we help each other throughout different difficult times. And that was a difficult one that Ellen had to run through the woods with bare feet and her negligee. And we participated by pulling the vines down her legs. That was what we were told to do. So we were pulling them down. And so then when we saw the movie in post, the vines went up her legs. So that was a scene that we had no idea was in the movie. And then, of course, they added the tree experience, which, you can imagine. Nothing happened that night. We didn't see that. So when that happened, we were like, what? We didn't tell anyone we made this movie for 20 years.
Yeah.
It was not on our resume. We were horrified. Seriously.
Yeah, we didn't have it on a resume for many years.
But now here you are
That's right.
at Niagara Falls at the
Out
gas
and proud,
station being
out
like,
and
do you know
proud."
who I am? I don't pay for fuel. Try it. You'd be surprised how easy it is to get free gas.
Like that. I'm going to try it someday.
Wish I brought my
Oh,
car.
that's pretty funny. Okay.
Were you ever concerned? I mean, obviously, you knew that it was a very small production, and you had no idea that it was going to explode the way it did. But did you ever have any concern in your career about being typecast as scream queens?
We didn't tell anyone we did it. So I didn't even, I really didn't know what a scream queen was, if you want to know.
Okay.
I wasn't into horror movies. I just wanted to be an actor, and I got a part in a movie. And after we left, we didn't really know if anyone ever saw that movie. And it wasn't until 20 years later, in 2002, when we were invited to a screening of the movie. Betsy and I were in LA, and they were showing it at a very big theater, and there were lines around the theater. And this was a big theater, and they wanted our autograph. We had no idea. I mean, we saw it in Blockbuster, like, no one's renting that. And that's when we learned that there was this love of this movie.
So, a lot of people rented that.
Yeah,
Yep.
we didn't really tell anyone, no, that it wasn't about being typecast. We were just not using it as part of our resume.
But what about now? Like, people must be bugging you for cameos and stuff, especially with
We
all
do
the
get calls.
resurgence.
Actually, just before the strike, I worked, and at the end of your shooting or the end of your scenes or whatever, they will often say, "You guys, that's a wrap for Betsy Baker. Let's give her a round of applause," which is another way of saying let's get her off the set and out of makeup so we can go on to the
Shut her
next scene.
up.
It's fine. But this last scene was just before the strike. They said, guys, everybody, that's a wrap for Miss Betsy Baker here. Let's give her a big round of applause. And also, for those of you who don't know, she was in Evil Dead. And I just went, what? And it's very endearing to us, that there are people on the set that go, "Oh, Miss Baker, can I just say, I just really loved you in Evil Dead." It's really flattering, and
It
we
is.
really own it, and we're really proud of it, and we're really proud of
We're
the work.
over it.
But
We're
I have to say, one of the most fun things that we've done in the last 22 years, and we've done a lot of fun things, but is to literally be at these conventions and to meet the fans. And I'm not saying that just because you're all sitting there. You guys, you have been so kind and so great to us, and you've told us how some of you have seen this at 4 years old. I mean, we go.
We're
get
worried
back
about
on the plane,
you.
and we're worried about you, and we're going, oh, please, I hope they're
We've
not
got
showing
our
their
shrink
children.
out here
and-
afterwards.
But it's really very flattering and kind when people come up and say,
It is.
and
It's
we
very
really mean
sweet.
it, and we love these conventions, and we love you too.
And it helps us get over all our, psychological, emotional trauma from being in a horror
Yeah.
movie too
Yeah.
young and not knowing what we were going to do. So,
Yeah.
we're embracing it.
No, I love what a team you are, especially when there's Ellen as well, and it's just the ladies of Evil Dead doing the tour, because it was a boys' club. It is a boys' club, but we couldn't have done it without you, and so we celebrate the women. It's great.
Love you.
Put it a little louder.
Couldn't have done it without these
That's right,
women,
that's
right,
right.
everybody?
Great. Oh, sure.
All right. And speaking of the fans, I have more questions, but I'm sure you have a couple. Shall we? Also, is someone paying attention to time for me? Can you do it since you're standing right there? Yeah, thank you. Anybody? Let's talk about the new iterations of Evil Dead. Now that you've embraced it, now that you've been to therapy, now that we're all self-actualized with it. Starting with Ash
I'm gonna
versus
take
the
off my
Evil
top.
Dead. Yeah, please. Did you watch it, and what did you think?
No, because my husband and I were not signed up for Stars, so I've never seen it.
Fair enough.
Ditto.
I mean, how many of you out there signed up for Stars to watch that show?
See?
Really?
Or you stole it, you bunch of
I mean,
pirates.
Is it?
they did contact us, and they wanted our cameos or pictures for it, but we've never. And we were both told that if the series had continued, there was a good chance they might bring us into something. But that did not make me go out and get a Stars. I'm sorry if there's anybody in here that works for Stars. We just didn't get it.
But they just said it's on Netflix now. Okay, we'll watch it.
Okay.
And we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
It's really different. I'd be so interested to hear what you think, because especially with regard to strong female leads, and I think a lot of these revisionist remakes and are kind of seeking to right those wrongs. What about Evil Dead Rise?
Well, we both were invited to the premiere, and here's how Betsy watched it.
I didn't see very much of it.
So don't ask her.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying. I thought I was really happy that Ash was the hero of the movie was a woman, a female. So for that alone, I loved it. But it didn't scare me that much. I thought it was kind of gory or gruesome, but I feel like I was more frightened when I see my movie, even though I know what's going to happen in our movie, but I'm more scared. I don't know why.
Well, I wanted to tag back to what you said a few minutes ago when you were talking about Scream Queens and such, because we've been asked that question before. Now, in my mind, I see Scream Queens from the 40s and the 50s and even the early 60s, and they were victims. Like you just said, they were victims. And I'm seeing a big change in not only, horror movies, but thrillers and mysteries where the females are not the victims. And the females may go through 3/4 of the movie, you think they're going to be the victims, but they come out as the victors. And that's why I don't even see ourselves. Okay, so I die, but you'll notice in Evil Dead, I came back because I rose from the dead.
Right.
And
She's Jesus Christ. No.
I had never looked at it that way.
A female version.
Thank you.
No.
But I think there has been a change in the last 20 or 30 years where the females said no. The female characters said no. We're not letting this happen.
Well, and also even in our movie, I like to say that we weren't victimized as much because we kicked butt. I mean, we were tough ass women.
Mm-hmm. We didn't go down without a fight.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like there was a little bit of the new thing with Sam's movie too. Like either that or he just really could only see women as evil or victims. So I it's one or the other because the Madonna thing that men sometimes.
The virgin horror binary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I like to think that he was a feminist.
I think there's something, when we're looking back on these movies and we love them, we want to kind of reconcile something with them. And, I do think that there's an argument to be made that, Ash also takes a lot of shit in these movies.
That's right.
You guys are tormenting him throughout for, being a little perv at the beginning. So
right.
There's feminism in there somewhere.
He is today.
Any more questions from the audience? Oh, there's one. Yeah.
So we've talked about how the shoot was pretty grueling and you guys went through a lot of torture to make this film, but were there any scenes that you had a blast shooting that you were like, yeah, that was a great time, that's going to look great?
Nope. Little Miss Positivity.
There was one time when Ash is going up the hill. I think it's either just as or just before or just prior to him dragging me up, which I will acknowledge was not probably an easy piece of cake. And it was a pretty steep hill up to the right. If you leave the cabin and turn to the right, it's a pretty steep hill. And he was location scouting one day, and he fell and broke his ankle. And Sam could have cared less. Wrap that up in a sock and let's get back to work. I swear to you, Bruce's ankle got this big. He could barely walk. If you look carefully, I think it happened a couple of nights before he drags me up the hill. And not only is that an effort, but you'll definitely see him limp. And I don't know, this is not very nice of me to say. I didn't have a lot of pity for him. I didn't feel that bad for him because...
This is the real Betsy Baker.
Yeah, I didn't really feel that bad for him, so...
Regarding that question, though, we were all kind of, this is film 101 for us. We had never done a film. I had done industrials like her with cars. We're from Detroit. That's all they did there. And so we were learning about filmmaking on the set. And so we would have they would get the dailies that would be shipped in. And they were on a reel-to-reel. And I'll never forget one night, I woke up and the reel was just flipping and everybody was still, had fallen asleep from watching the dailies. But I could see in the dailies that this was becoming something. It was, magical. I mean, but while shooting it, I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing? This is like oatmeal and milk, and they're telling me to spit it out of my mouth, and I have no idea how that could possibly look good. And we're spitting it into the camera. How are they even going to see it? So until I saw the dailies, I really didn't know that it was going to look like anything. So,
Good question.
Yeah, good question. Sean.
Okay, well, you kind of already like alluded to this by mentioning how some scenes you don't remember shooting. When did you become aware of Sam Raimi using the quote-unquote fake chefs to finish the film?
oh, well, the fake Shumps, well, he was a big Three Stooges fan, which is where the Shump thing comes from, because I don't know if everyone knows that Shump died while shooting one of the Three Stooges, so they replaced him with another actor, and so thus fake Shump. But yeah, there was some scenes where, like, they were pulling me out of the fire, for example, and I was originally in there, and then they wanted to add some piece to it. I don't know what, but they used Rob Tappert's sister, and she became a fake Shump. And so that's why at the end there's a cast of fake Shumps. And Ted Raimi, who was 12 when we were shooting, was also used even in body parts. I think they considered that too. So.
I think there was a time in the summer or fall of 1980, because we shot primary parts in 1979, and somehow I ran into Bruce or Sam or whatever, or Rob, because we were doing some ADR, which is additional voices or whatever, and I said, well, we never did shoot that scene of this hand or this leg coming out of the grave or whatever. When are we going to do that? Oh, yeah, we did, Betsy. We got that. Don't you worry. We used a fake Shump. We did that. We got that all. Don't worry. Oh, okay. So then I walked out of the studio with my, whatever between my legs going, wow, they just got somebody else to do that.
To be me.
To dramatic scene. So, but it wasn't for months that we knew later that they took care of it.
Just like he said.
Just like you said.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, over there.
About that infamous Evil Dead scene where Bruce Campbell beheads Linda. How did you and Bruce Campbell manage to get that to happen?
It's theatrical magic. Do you mean in the yard, in the grave?
Yeah, in the grave.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what happened. So Sam told me, now tonight we're going to shoot this scene, Betsy, and Bruce is going to whack your head a little, but it's not going to hurt. So, because Rob went down to the Sears and Roebuck. Remember when we used to call it Sears and Roebuck? We went down to Sears and Roebuck. They got these styrofoam beams. Honest to God, they're not going to hurt you. We'll do it a couple times and then we'll move on. They were not styrofoam beams. They were like a styrofoam type beam that was painted in brown wood, but it was the beams that your dad would go and get at Sears and Roebuck if you wanted to put fake beams in the ceiling of your basement den. So they had to be a little bit more than styrofoam, but I trusted him. I believed him. I don't know what I was thinking. And Sam gave Bruce the direction, just whack her. Whack her as hard as you can. Whack her as hard as you can. And I think you just reminded me of it the other day. We did one take, and man, I will tell you this, I let loose. I let Sam have it. And he goes, okay, can we just do it one more time? And I said, okay. I was just nuts.
God.
Well, by that time, the concussion had set in, so.
Right. She was
Yeah,
numb.
it was bad. It was bad.
I think we're all learning a lot of industry insider stuff about movie magic today, aren't we?
Movie magic.
And how Sam talks.
And how Sam talks.
Sam doesn't talk
Doesn't
like that.
take no. Talks a little like that.
Thank you.
A little bit.
Hey,
can
you
believe it.
beauties.
Little bit.
Another question, Freddie Krueger
Think
shirt.
about the AI coming into the movie industry.
About what?
AI.
Oh, AI. I'm glad I'm old.
Sadly, I think it's unavoidable, and I think it's the way that technology it has changed all of our lives. I mean, quite frankly, everybody in this room should be concerned to a point how AI is going to change things and change reality and change how we view news and current events and truth and fiction. So it's just something that, I think, listen, I think back at the turn of the century, a lot of people were worried about electricity and, what that
Or
was
color.
that
Color
was
in the
what-
movies. they were worried
or
about.
the invention of electricity, you know, and how that was going to change our lives. And now people would stay up later on the farm before going to bed at 6:15. So, I don't know. It's
think
concerning.
it's good that we're fighting right now about it, that SAG is taking this issue and really mounting it in the way that they are, because it's serious. I mean, it's going to mean the difference for a lot of people. So, and who wants to see movies with, that anyway?
I would like to see movies of a younger, thinner version of me, that's for sure. But
I mean, CGI even,
Yeah.
a lot of people come up to us and say, the reason we love your movie is because it's all real. And, there's something about that. It's like rock and roll, you just like the purity of it. So it'd be nice if we could maintain that on some level. I don't know.
Tom Sullivan was our great special effects artist, but there was not, and we love him dearly, there was not a lot of special effects. I mean, it came from his heart and soul, and there was not a lot of special effects magic. It was short of my head being thrown off to the side, to the right side, you're right. And that, by the way, they stuck in an artificial head at the last minute, in case you didn't know. Sorry. But it was not, that was the special effect. And the special effect of, spewing out something to the camera was, we heated up some oatmeal for you, Betsy and Theresa, so, do that. It was not CGI, but that's one of the things that I do think is endearing to Evil Dead.
Yeah.
The original Evil Dead.
That's nice of them to heat it up.
Yeah, they didn't heat it up. She's embellishing it.
I have to take the opportunity to plug the Halloween double issue of Rue Morgue because we are talking about AI. It's a special edition all about AI in film and specifically horror. But I want to continue on something you alluded to, Betsy, which is the idea that, yes, you made these movies so long ago, but in more recent years, a Evil Dead video game has come out. Mm-hmm. And had they used your likeness and your characters, might you have had something to say about it?
Well, they did use our voice.
Yes, but that was
Yeah.
work that you were.
Yeah, we never
right.
were asked if we could do this or walk down that lane or pick up this blunt object and do this, and we just were never asked.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't.
They did ask us to use our likeness for the game. Is that what you're asking?
I guess that's what I'm just thinking of whatever documentation you would have signed at the original filming of your portrayal of that character for them
back
to.
in 1979.
Right.
Oh no.
Nothing.
I tell you, video games, video machines, they were not even invented. I have the contract. She has her contract. There's nothing in there.
But that's
you couldn't have imagined.
That's
right.
actually kind of why they had to ask us, because I have two lawyer brothers, so we discuss this ad nauseum. Part of the reason is that you could have interpreted that contract never stated, because there was no video or video games or such, that they didn't give you permission to do that. So that's why when they made the game, they did have to ask us for our likeness. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But they didn't buy it off you.
Yes, they did.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Oh, no, they didn't just ask.
Okay.
They said, here's what we'll give you. It wasn't
Right.
as much as we wanted,
Okay.
never is, but at least there was some compensation.
Right. And that's what the strike is partially about.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about Evil Dead 2 comes around? And there's a new Linda.
Yeah.
Boo,
Remember when I
new
told
Linda.
you about how I met Bruce and Sam and Rob in the restaurant, between shifts for lunch or whatever? They never did buy me lunch. But about 1986, we had all moved to Los Angeles, and no cell phones, by the way, no computers yet. But they tracked me down. I think they called my mother or something. They figured out where I was living in LA. That's how we found each other back in the 70s and 80s, right? And they called me and said, "Hey, Betsy, would you like to meet for lunch at this luncheon place called Maxwell's on Washington Boulevard?" And I got there first. I was not late that time. And I sat down, and they came in, and they said, after a few minutes of niceties, they said, "We'd like to propose an offer. We'd like you to, we're going to do another Evil Dead, and we'd like you to play Linda." And how about it? And when are you going to do it? We're going to do it in September. Your parts will all be done in September. And I sort of said, guys, I don't think that's going to happen. And I stood up, and you could clearly see that I was pregnant with our first child. And so I was having a baby. And I couldn't change my schedule, and they couldn't change theirs. So they picked up the lunch tab, but
Finally.
they didn't pick
But,
me up.
you know,
and-
do you know the story about why they made a second Evil Dead?
I have heard so many versions.
Yeah.
I would love to hear the real one.
Well, I think the real one is, and I believe I just heard this from Sam last couple weeks ago, that they had given the rights.
Can you say it in his voice?
Yeah, hey,
Hey, beauties.
beauties, witches, come here. You see, we had to give the license away to De Laurentiis because they were going to distribute the film, and so we had to remake Evil Dead.
And how'd that feel? How'd that hit you?
Oh, I knew that story. I'd been on the circuit a bit. Yeah, I knew the story.
But when you first found out and you were like,
Oh, well, I don't know. At that point, I kind of didn't want to be any part of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you were past it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Betsy? Like, just the idea of it being sort of remade, sort of sequelized, Linda 2.0.
Well, I don't think I had really ever seen Evil Dead, maybe part of it. I actually went with my husband. It was in a theater in LA, and the sound was still so bad. The sound production was so bad. There was a lot of, static, and they're in and out. And my husband's a sound mixer, a professional sound mixer. He couldn't stand it. He said, I got to go. I can't even be in here. So I don't think my husband, to this day, has ever seen the whole movie. I know my 2 grandchildren have never seen the whole movie. And I sat there saying, well, I could stay here and watch the movie, but I won't have a ride home because he's leaving. So I got up and left. But I just
Wow.
was so in shock. I couldn't believe that there was enough meat there to make Evil Dead 2. I just couldn't believe it. So have at it.
And then, of course, Evil Dead 2 kind of marked a departure from the original Evil Dead in terms of its tone, in terms of its humor. It went even further in Army of Darkness. And then the show and the game, like, Evil Dead is such a beast.
It's the train that never stops.
Indeed. And insofar as I'm sure it's very difficult for you guys to look back and separate your experience from the result, if you could what is the heart of Evil Dead? What is Evil Dead fundamentally, in your words? Is it horror? Is it laughs? Is it DIY punk rock creativity?
Well, I do have to say, we just went to a heavy metal show. I had no idea that the growling in metal is from when Shelly says, "Join us." That is what they do in metal music. So I had no idea. I'm learning about this.
So we have Evil Dead to thank for that?
Yes, they were
Or
like
blame?
That's Shelly. That's why we growl. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean it's got a lot of levels. I gotta say, I for one love the campiness of the first one, and when I saw it in the movies and people were standing up and laughing and talking to the characters on the screen, I just thought that was amazing. I mean, I love the campiness. Some of the I never liked the end of even our movie with all the animation where the skull turns into worms and cockroaches. I don't get into that, but I guess people like it. I like the campy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the fact that there is a sense of humor, whether it was intended or not. There is a large part of the sense of humor. There have been questions asked similar to yours before, Andrea, like, are you proud to have been in this, or, were you ashamed? I was never ashamed. I just knew that when you go into a car, an executive, an ad agency, they weren't combining auto industry commercials with horror movies. And so, like Theresa said, we didn't have it on our resume for many years. And, we so proudly, I think I can speak for Theresa, we both so proudly own it now. And part of it is because it's just a softer, it's so old now, and it's so many things are not scary. They're funny or they're humorous or they're badly done. It's just that they're proud of it. And I know that all of us in our life or actors go, oh my God, I can't believe I made that movie. I don't even want to think about it. No, you guys, I say to fellow actors, just own it. You did it. You worked it. You just it is what it is.
That's right. And now it seems tame compared to what they're showing, you
Yeah.
know, in horror. So there's that.
Yeah.
No questions from the audience? Hello.
Hey. So we know that especially working with Sam Raimi, it has to be one of the most torturous experiences ever. What's it like working with Bruce Campbell, though? Or what memories do you have with him? Like, what funny memories do you wish to share?
Who had a crush on who, and who reciprocated that crush?
Oh,
There had to
I
be
want
crushes.
those
Separate
details.
questions. Well, I will say, Bruce is a very handsome person, I think. And I personally think he is incredibly funny. Incredibly funny. And if you get Bruce on a night on a set where he's on a roll, I mean, and he's with Sam in the same room, it can be an incredibly funny evening. I did have a crush on Bruce, but not so much, though, that like, oh, God, I wish Bruce and I would date now after the movie. I never thought that. I didn't. I really didn't. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't. I forgot the question. I'm a little...
She's so flummoxed about Bruce that she can't even remember.
I did have a crush. He knows I had a crush on him. And, and Sam got a lot of joy because they were high school friends and they hadn't really had girlfriends. And here he got to direct his buddy and tell him that he had to turn around while sitting on this couch, a awful couch, and now you're going to have to kiss Betsy. I'm surprised the snort didn't come in.
I mean,
And it was a little weird. We were both in our 20s. It wasn't, like,
and
yeah, it was
I think
weird.
the point that you made that they had never kissed girls, that's why I was snorting.
And Sam knew that, and he was torturing Bruce at my expense. I, on the other hand, was enjoying it.
And she had done a lot of kissing.
I had done a lot of kissing. But, yeah.
But he's
he's a blast to be around.
Yeah.
And I know that he has a particular audience genre that and I know that they either like him or don't, but I happen to think, and we've been with him in funny moments and funny evenings and funny panels, and when we're just having dinner with him, and he's just as normal as you and I.
But
I don't know if you're normal, but...
He's always on.
He's always on.
He's
Yeah,
always
he's always
on.
That's right. Yeah. What is normal? Well, we have a question.
Oh.
Yeah, we have a question, right?
Well, yeah, we know that you guys are watch the movie a lot, let's say. First of all, who's watched it the most? Anyone watch it 25 times? 30,
Yeah,
50,
really, guys?
50?
Seriously? There are other
100,
shows on TV
100.
right now.
Okay.
We can name you some.
We're going to see. We have a little prize.
We have a little prize, a little trivia.
Oh, what are we going to make him do for it?
No, just a poster. But, yeah, so we have a trivia question. For those of you who have watched it 100 times, you'll probably win. So you got to get your hand up first. And you're going to put the question out there. Yeah. Okay.
So at the very beginning of the movie, when we're driving during the day, right, in the car down the country roads of Tennessee, another vehicle passes on the road going the opposite direction. And it has a bumper sticker on the car. Does anybody know on the truck? Does anybody know what it says on the bumper sticker?
Come on, you 100-timers.
You guys weren't paying attention.
No. What are you watching?
This is when they were going to get some more whatever, in the kitchen.
Hooch.
I mean, you could probably guess. There are only so many bumper sticker liners out there, right?
Oh my God,
Roadkill?
we've
No.
got you.
Honk if you're groovy.
Question.
Honk if you like boomsticks.
Nobody has a clue. Take a guess.
Ass, gas, or grass?
No.
No.
Never heard that.
No.
No.
Was it Calvin and Hobbes peeing?
No, gosh. This is a good trivia
Oh my God.
question.
Well, I guess
We're going to
we
go
have
to
to
another
take
one
a
then.
post.
Do you have another one?
No.
Well, should we
All right.
tell them?
No, absolutely. No. That's the grab. Then they go back tonight and watch it.
Oh, wait, somebody's got it.
Nope.
That would have been good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's moving on. Toward the end of the movie, things get ugly. And Ash goes down into the basement in a lake full of blood. Correct? Are you with me so far? Oh, see, we got a lot of potential winners here.
Okay.
Hanging on the wall of that movie,
Wait,
Sam Raimi. I see his hand up.
was the
I
first
see.
hand.
I know.
Just FYI.
Sam Raimi sends an homage to the viewing audience, and your hand was first. To what movie?
It's Jaws.
No.
This was the second one.
The Hills Have Eyes.
The Hills Have Eyes.
I know a lot of you knew that, but
Michael Berryman and The Hills Have Eyes.
I mean, he should win because I think he's watched it over 100 times. Anyway, so
do we want to tell them?
Oh
what
yeah,
was on the
let's
bumper
tell
sticker?
them. Lazy Mary. Yeah. Nothing,
I don't get it.
I mean, it wasn't.
Who's
it,
that?
It just said it on
We
the
think
bumper.
it was on the truck when they.
Actually on the
When
truck.
they, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they planned it, but
I don't think they planned it, but.
Yeah.
Do you know who the two guys were that were hitchhiking on the road?
producer
Rob Tappert and
yeah.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
I
you watched
see.
it a few times.
Well, you can have a magazine because they only brought the one poster.
So nice.
Betsy, Theresa, you were amazing.
You were amazing.
Thank you
were
so much
amazing.
for taking the time to hang out with the ladies of Evil Dead.
Can I just say I love Niagara Falls. This is the best convention I've ever been to because we got to go to the waterfalls. It's amazing.
Yeah, you guys brought that in for the weekend. That
Thank
was
you.
so nice.
Just for you.